I am happy to join with you today.
Once you change your philosophy, you change your thought pattern.
I love America. I love everybody.
Do what this white kid can do more.
That in fact we are tired of it. We are sick of it. You've been brutalizing black people. You've been murdering and lynching them. Black people are tired of it. So we are concerned with that social phenomenon. We are concerned with that exploitation. We are concerned with the oppression that black people and all other people. The thing is, we have the ability to defend it.
Arm raised, fist tight, nigga. Militant man, say goodbye to the polite nigga. Go ahead, hate on me, make my plight bigger. Or you can roll with me and make this fight bigger. We mashing on, hold on to your boots. I'm getting back to
What's good, man? For the uninitiated, man, that's Stally right there, man. Stally's the light-skinned dude with the beard that was in MMG a while ago, man. A lot of you guys overlooked this guy, but, man, he's an Ohio rapper, and Ohio rappers are cool with me, man. Bone Thugs and Harmony, Ohio rappers, man. I would name some more, but I think that's all I know for right now, man. But thank you guys for tuning in once again to the One Way Podcast. I'm your host, Lorenzo. And obviously with a song like this playing in the background, I'm going to be on my black shit. And when I say black shit, it's definitely not a negative to me anyway. But if you've been watching the news, or if you've been living in America for the past few years, you know that there's this thing about videos being released of officers shooting unarmed black men. It's not a new phenomenon. It's just the phenomena that surrounds it. It's just because we're seeing these things play out on television. We're seeing these things on body cameras, on dash cams, on just camcorders, cell phone cams. We're seeing these things that way. This stuff has been going on since black people existed in this country, even before it was this country. It existed on this land since black people first came to this land. An unarmed black man is considered a threat because the threat is the man himself and not necessarily a weapon that he may or may not have. The other day, I did a podcast about, I think I titled it Bombs Over Austin, and I was talking about this bomber that has just killed himself. He was basically sending bombs to black people in the mail. And the conversation I was having was centered around whether or not they're going to call it terrorism. And if they actually called it terrorism, would it actually matter? Would it mean anything to us as a collective if they called it terrorism? Like, what's next after they call it terrorism? The truth of the matter is, nothing is next. If they call it terrorism, nothing is left. Nothing comes after that. See, we've had this thing for years and years and years and years and years and years and years about being acceptable and having things be seemingly acceptable, even when we know that these things are not acceptable and shouldn't be acceptable or accepted by any stretch of anyone's imagination. But here we are having these things over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And the first thing they want to do is put some black people on TV talking about how they forgive and they forgive and they forgive. And that shit is done, man. That shit is played out. Like, we've been tricked and bamboozled into only seeing black leaders as these just well-renowned or really good preacher types. The Martin Luther King Jr., even Malcolm X to an extent, because he was in these streets and then became a minister or whatnot. And that's one reason why we cheer for villains the way we do as black people. I know there's a Big Crit song which he states they wonder why the villains what we cheer for. And quite literally, they murdered all the heroes from Medgar Evers on down. They murdered those guys, and those are the kind of people that we've been taught to sort of rally behind. Well, I say the time for that is past, man. The time for that stuff is past. Sometimes you gotta act an ass in order to get something done, to get something passed. Sometimes it has to be some sort of breaking point. Now, in Parkland, Florida, well, shout out to Anthony Rizzo, by the way, because he's from Parkland, graduated from that high school, ended up hitting a home run today on opening day for the Cubs, so that's pretty cool. But look at the Parkland thing, and look how those high school students in that high school and high school students from around the country are marching, and they're kicking this shit up about gun control. Now, quite frankly, I'll be honest with you, the only gun control I really believe in are holsters, straps, and sights. I don't know if anyone has ever said that before, but I feel as though I made that up. The only gun control I believe in are holsters, straps, and sights. If we really wanted gun control in this country, there's only really one way to make it happen. And that is if able-bodied black men like myself and like you that's probably listening to this podcast right now, if we just started getting licenses and buying up all these guns, and they start seeing that there's a spike in black gun ownership, black legal gun ownership, I guarantee you they'll start doing something about these damn guns, because it's the last thing they want. They'll kill a nigga for thinking that he has a gun. Hell yeah, they're gonna stop and start looking at these gun laws if they see black people actually buying guns legally. For real. That's just how this shit works. It's simple as that, man. But back to the real point of this conversation. Like, there's a breaking point, and I'm seeing it in the Sacramento shit. Like, they shut City Hall down, and it wasn't respectable. It doesn't have to be respectable. You don't have to respect anyone. Think about this for a second. The hottest movie out right now is Black Panther. Black Panther has a lot of similarities to two movies. Both of those movies are superhero movies. One of those movies is Thor Ragnarok, quite frankly. There's a lot of similarities. If you're really into movies, I'll talk to you about that on a later podcast. But there are also a lot of similarities between Black Panther and The Dark Knight. Consider the fact that Michael B. Jordan studied Heath Ledger in order to play Eric Killmonger. Look at Eric Killmonger's character. He didn't care. It wasn't about respect. It was about righting a wrong. And sometimes you have to go to the extreme to right a wrong. You as a black person, especially if you're going to be out there in front of the masses, especially if you want to help, you have to be willing to go to hell so other black people can see heaven. I mean that. You literally have to be willing to go to hell so other black people can see heaven. And if you become unsuccessful, if you fail at your attempt, just like Eric Killmonger, it is okay to let it go. Not saying that you die literally, but it's okay to fall back, sort of get another plan, and then come back. Because it is past time that we do something, since there is this breaking point with things in America like male chauvinism, and we're seeing what just happened in Hollywood with Harvey Weinstein and all that shit, and you're seeing what's happening in Parkland, Florida, as it relates to that school shooting and how this gun control talk is starting up again. We can do the same thing with Stephon Clark, because there's gonna be another one, just like there's gonna be another school shooting, just like there's gonna be another woman coming out to reveal that she was sexually harassed or assaulted by some famous guy. This shit is gonna happen because we live in a very cyclical country, and this stuff has been happening like this over and over and over and over again for as long as people have been here in this nation. But hopefully, you see it with the NBA commercials. You see it with the NBA response. You see it with other celebrities responding. You see it with the people on the ground for real. You see it with the relatives. Like, this is different. This is different. And it feels good that it's different. Rest in peace to Stephon Clark, but someone has to be the catalyst in order to get shit changed around here. It has to happen. It is quite necessary that it happens. because we cannot continue to live, not necessarily in fear, but playing by a different set of rules than other people. We literally have to teach our kids certain things to try to get them, to try to protect them from things we cannot protect them from. Of course, other races of people talk to their kids about how to interact with the police. But they start off with the premise that the police are good. You have to almost come to a black child with the police are to be not necessarily evil, treated as if they're evil, but you can't necessarily give a police officer the benefit of the doubt because you as a black person know that that police officer is an actual person. You cannot turn off racism when you put on a uniform. You cannot turn off prejudice when you put on a uniform. You take that shit to work, you take that shit back home. And the shit that you think about at home, you're going to take that shit to work and you're going to apply that there. The shit is old, man. The shit's got to stop, bro. It's got to stop. Of course, we've been going on about this for quite some time. And just like the name of the podcast is one way, of course, that's one way to do it. But look, let's check out this other way. Much like the Marlo quote I use all the time, bro. It fits right here. We've been going that way for quite so long that we've become accustomed to it. We've forgiven people that don't deserve forgiveness because that's what we were taught because our leaders were of the church. But look, an eye for an eye is real as shit because other people do it too. We're being terrorized in our own communities by outsiders and each other. The only thing we really want in this nation is acceptance. That's why we want the government and government officials to call hate crimes terrorism. That's why we want it to be called terrorism. Because when you see someone of Arab descent make a bomb and blow it up in America and kills American citizens, we can call that terrorism because it's an attack on America. American citizens died. But when it happens to black people, we're going to just separate that because they don't necessarily classify us as Americans for real. And if you think they do, you're full of shit because black people have only really fully been citizens of the United States of America with full rights of all citizens since the 1960s. And most of our parents were born in the 1960s, bro. Your mom and dad got colored on their birth certificate. Peace.
You want it to be one way.
What?
You want it to be one way.
Man, I don't
You
know
want it
what
to
you...
be one
Man,
way.
stop! Stop saying that.
But it's the other way.
And we out. Once again, you can subscribe via Google Play and iTunes, and shout out to the newest app that we're using, Spreaker, which allows us to upload these things on YouTube as well. So, I mean, the brand isn't like Desus and Mero's brand, but it ain't weak. We out.